For each of us, there will be times in our lives where we feel like nomadic tent dwellers waiting on the promises of God. Today, I want to talk about faithfulness and how faith, exercising faith, brings forth the promises of God in ways that are not yet revealed to us. My name is Tenisam Montgomery, and you are listening to Measure of Royalty. As I sit here, I was reading the book of Hebrews and realizing that our faith exercised is what brings forth the things that God has ordained and purposed for our lives. And when we are constantly living in a world of instant gratification, the Lord pulls us away from that in different ways. And some may be dwelling in a tent spiritually, waiting for the revelation and the breakthrough understanding in some new way in a spiritual development place. Some are physically dwelling in tents. And when I say that, I mean, if you are one who the Lord has promised that you will have a Rehoboth, a land, a tangible place, a house that with property, that you are waiting on the Lord to bring into your life and you're right now renting, then you too are waiting in a tent and you are a tent dwelling person. You are a sojourner waiting to receive the promise of the land or the deeds or those keys to the house that maybe you're in a rent to own situation, or maybe you're living with your in-laws, or you're living with a friend, or you're living in a place where you feel you have not yet achieved or reached that pinnacle place that the Lord has promised you. We've got to learn to first set aside the promises that we make to ourselves and stop propping them up as what is the pinnacle of what we should have for ourselves. Realizing that we are not living in a world where what we want for ourselves is equivalent to what the Lord wants for us. I'm thinking about Sarah, and I'm thinking about the pregnancy that the Lord promised her and what 100 years could do to your belief that it's going to come. In Genesis, it says that when she overheard the angel talking to Abram about her becoming pregnant, she laughed. The angel of the Lord, may it be God himself, as some believe, or may it be an angel sent from heaven to deliver the message of the promise. She laughed. And I want you to realize that in that moment when she was laughing, it was not only because she was past childbearing age, meaning she had already experienced menopause. So there was no menstruation, or it was very sparse. So when a woman experiences menopause, or is going through menopause, sometimes they'll have a menstruation every once in a blue moon, every once in a while they'll menstruate, which is a sign that you're ovulating. And so Sarah is in a place of saying, I'm not even having a regular menstrual flow. I couldn't get pregnant when I was. How am I supposed to get pregnant in this even more deserted, barren place? But we have to stop discounting God. When the provision of God was always there. And we have to get out of God's way so that he can do what he said he would do. If he has promised you that house, if he has promised you that spouse, if he has promised you those children, they will come. Those things will not be held up forever. But our unbelief can get in the way of the ability to allow God to move by his will, by his plan, in his way. Notice how Sarah and Abraham went and got a third party and decided that they were going to fix it themselves. They figured it out. God said this was going to happen. And by their own strength, by their own understanding, they went and they found a way. And it brought the people, the Israelite people, generations of struggle and strife, which some may say is still happening today. When we interfere with the plans of God, we don't know the repercussions that those choices will have. We always look back at the Israelites who wandered for 40 years and make comments of how could they be so stupid? How could they not trust God? How could they not just enjoy? And if you actually know, you know. They had food to eat. Their clothes never wore out. Their shoes never wore out. This is in Deuteronomy. You can check it out for yourself. They never experienced any of the hardships that someone who is impoverished would experience. Though they lived in tents, they had male servants and female servants. They had the provision of food. They had the pillar of fire and a pillar of cloud, the presence of God with them daily. And they complained. There was nothing that they were lacking. The Lord withheld no good thing from them. And we look at that and we say, I can't believe they had it so easy. I don't know if we are realizing that their unease is symbolic of our unease. When we are trying to figure out how to get out of the tent dwelling space, we are doing the same thing. We are ignoring the right now provision that we have. We are ignoring the right now presence of God that we have. We are ignoring the male servants and the female servants of the right now circumstances that we have. And the Lord has to tell us how to treat and handle male and female servants, how to reverence him. Why? Because he is the Lord our God. And in Leviticus 26, when he tells us to keep his Sabbaths, to reverence his tabernacle or his tent or his dwelling place, when he tells us to walk in his statutes, he ends that verse with saying, I am the Lord, your God. He is simply telling us, because I said so. Because he said so. We're in a similar situation. And I want to go back a little bit because I mentioned something that we all have male and female servants. And what I mean by that is if you've ever been to a grocery store to pick up your food, someone is servicing you. You didn't have to go to the farm. You didn't have to farm that. You didn't have to excavate whatever it is. You didn't have to grow that crop. You didn't have to harvest that crop. You didn't have to bring it in. You didn't have to deal with all the bugs and all the animals. You didn't have to deal with all the pests and all the pesticides. And then someone puts it in a package, puts it in a bag for you. And if you live in Florida like I do, or some other place where there are Publix, the grocery store Publix, someone will literally take your cart for you, wheel it out to your car, and unload your bags into your trunk. You have male and female servants. If you've ever been to a restaurant before and you have a servant who is waiting on you, called a waitress or a hostess, they are there to serve you. They are there to make sure you have an enjoyable experience. Someone prepared that meal for you. Someone brought it out to your table. Someone cleaned up after you. We need to recognize that each of us has male and female servants, and they are like hired hands. We hire the grocer to bring the produce. We hire the waitress to bring the food. We hire the chef to prepare the food. We hire the hostess to give us a kind experience and to show us how or where to sit, when to be seated, what way to go. We are the same as those nomadic sojourners, the Israelites. How are you handling or mishandling your Sabbath rest, your sojourning experience, your wilderness? God does not promise that life would be easy as a Christian. He promises He'll always be there. He promises He won't leave us. He won't forsake us. His expectations for us are important for us to acknowledge. What is your Rohobeth? That place that you're trying to get to, not because you want to be there, not because I want to get to this place alone, but because God has placed in me a desire to pursue this place. There's something in me that says I have a Rohobeth, which is a wide open space, a God-given space to reign. See, when Adam and Eve came here from heaven, the earth and the fullness thereof was their Rehoboth, their God-given, wide open space to reign, to be fruitful, to multiply on it, and to fill the entire earth. And that same promise still lives in each of us. We are all trying to get to that Rehoboth, that piece of this earth that the Lord has assigned and designated for us, that belongs to us. That desire has not died because God's promise is still true. This land is ours. We have to realize that our selfish ambitions for the things that we want for ourselves may not be aligning with the things that God wants for us. I doubt that Abram and Sarai wanted to dwell in tents, wanted to wander around. The word says that they were in the tents in a land that God promised them at a later time that it would be filled. And they had no heir. And Abram said to the Lord, how is it that you've promised me all these things and I have no heir? How is that even going to work? And Abram asked the Lord this question that I'm telling you now is such a mental, emotional, spiritual, complex question. That we all have something in us that our hearts yearn for, that belong to the purpose of God that is within us. And I can tell you from a clinical perspective that when we are unfulfilled in our lives, it leads to anxiety, overthinking, overanalyzing, constant worrying because you feel misplaced, or lead to depression, feeling like I'll never get there, I'll never accomplish it, being down on yourself, beating down on yourself. And the promises of God are not to do either of those things, but they're actually there to bring us to the place where He has promised us. If God said that you have children in your future, it doesn't matter what the circumstances look like. And I want to be clear. There are people who want children that God has not promised children to. I'm talking about if God said it, not if you desire it deeply. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but I've had my own feelings hurt by such things, thinking that I was supposed to have something. But it was what I wanted. It was not part of God's plan for my life. It was my own personal plan, and it had to crumble. It had to fall. It had to die. Because it was in the way of what God's plan was for my life. Whatever your circumstances are, whatever nomadic place you may be in. Maybe in an actual tent dwelling place where you're renting and you know that God has promised you a house and He's promised you land. And you're waiting on that promise to be fulfilled. Maybe you're a woman or a man and you're waiting for marriage, or you're waiting for children, or you feel like you're in a barren place. You're not producing what you're supposed to be producing. The promise is still on your life. And faith is the key to killing anxiety, to killing depression, to killing fear. Acknowledge what you have. You have the Spirit of God indwelling. You have the love of God and the luxuries of God all around you. What He said He will do, He will do. He is not a man that He shall lie. How are we aligning our lives and turning our belief toward God? That's the expectation. We have got to change our mindsets. I'm not speaking only to you. Many times when I am doing these podcasts, I'm speaking to you and I'm speaking to myself, and the Lord is speaking to me. We all have change to pursue. What has God promised you? Pursue it. Ask Him to help you to understand how to achieve it. because it will be by his miracle, by his miraculous move. He puts us in these positions where we are wondering how it could ever happen, when and where. But it is all by his hand, by his plan. He set these things aside for you. He will give them to you. All the time that Abraham and Sarah were married, they were unable to conceive, not for a lack of trying, but for a lack of faith. It was God's desire to move miraculously in their lives. And he did that for them. And he does not love them more than he loves you. He does not have a higher promise that he gave them that he has not given to you. The promise of the Rohobeth is still on your life. The promise that you are coming out of that tent, the promise that you are coming into the things that God has ordained and purposed for you is still on your life. Don't interfere with it by putting your own sauce on it. Don't interfere. Sit down, pray, pursue God, believe God, and he will fulfill his every promise by his miraculous hand. Be mindful that I'm saying miraculously fulfill. That means there is nothing that you can do that will bring it about. Your obedience and your belief are the only two ingredients necessary to move the heart of God. Again, this is Tenisam Montgomery, prophetic licensed mental health counselor, and you were listening to Measure of Royalty. Please subscribe, share, leave a comment. And if you're one of those women out there who is waiting for your spouse, I recently wrote a 21-day fasting companion that's available on Amazon called Woman in the World. It's 21 days of fasting and 21 prayers and the instruction of the things that we have to let go of as we wait on our spouse, bringing us into the wifedom that we are to live out, is something that I feel very strongly about. And so that book is available on Amazon. Feel free to pick that up. And I hope that this message blessed you. And I will see you soon.